And that's my problem because... Dear Lord, the holidays bring out the worst in people, I swear. Some backstory. I crash at my boyfriend's regularly when we are both off work. He is not a coffee drinker while I'm practically addicted. I typically just head over to the gas station up the street and grab coffee when I stay with him because it's convenient. At this point in my day, I have had no coffee. Our cast star, entitled mum, boss dad, clueless kid, state trooper, coffee barista, and, well, me. On to the story. So I go into the store and put my coffee order in. This is one of the places that does the fancy, made-to-order drinks, and I like mini lattes with an extra shot of espresso. While I'm waiting for my order, ST comes in, the state trooper, and starts talking with me. He used to work with my cousin and has known me for years. He's putting in his lunch order and grabbing coffee for him and his partner while chatting with me. Neither of us is paying attention to the counter or the numbers CB is calling out. That's when CK screams. It seems that while no one was looking, this 5-year-old child managed to grab my coffee off the counter without spilling it all over herself and take a drink. Of course, he's burnt the ever-living daylights out of his mouth, and she threw the offending drink at the wall, getting it all over the floor. State Trooper and I just sigh because we know how this is going to go. Entitled Mother's panicked and goes, "Oh baby, what happened? Where are you hurt?" CK just points at the cup. Entitled Mother turns on the CB. "How dare you give my child a hot drink when I'm not here? She's hurt now because of you." And the barista's like, "I apologize, ma'am. I placed the finished order on the counter for pickup. Your daughter must not have realized it was hot. Let's get her something cold to drink, on the house, and get this cleaned up." State Trooper and I have been helping keep people back from the spilled drink, and the barista smiles at us as she rounds the counter. Her co-worker is making a replacement drink, while Entitled Mother continues to rant about how bad the place is and how hurt her baby could have been. The barista grabs a mop from the back, and I pick up the empty cup, looking at the tag on it. Mini latte, extra shot of espresso. And the entitled mum says, "And I don't know what kind of place serves hot milkshakes anyway." Record scratch. Now everyone is looking at her. Hot milkshakes? Yes, I ordered a milkshake for her and she got burnt. Doesn't it make more sense that your daughter grabbed the wrong order and got someone's coffee instead? My daughter cannot drink coffee. It's poison to kids her age and she knows it. She'd never touch the stuff. The ST State Trooper looking at my cup in my hand. "Ma'am, I believe this young lady is correct." Entitled Mother grabs the crying kid by the hair and shakes her hard, right in front of a cop. "Coffee is bad for you. How many times must I tell you that?" The kid is crying. The barista is looking lost, guessing this wasn't part of her new hire training. State Trooper is stepping in to intervene. No managers in sight, and I'm wondering how my day went downhill so fast. This is about the time that the door opens, and in walks my boss from work. The look on his face says it all, and I realize that this lady looks so familiar because she's his ex-wife. Boss Dad says, "Let go of her hair." "But she drank coffee." Boss Dad shaking his head. "And? We've talked about this." Entitled Mother let go of crying kid, who runs and hides behind Boss Dad. Entitled Mother says, "She burnt her tongue and these people were mean about it." "So, you decided to assault our child in front of a uniformed officer?" "He's not a cop. He was talking to her," points to me. State Trooper takes out a badge and shows it to Entitled Mother. "I am very much a police officer. May I please speak to you outside?" "Whatever you have to say, you can say it right here." "Ma'am, I'm going to be placing you under arrest for assault on your daughter. I would prefer to cuff you outside where..." And that's when Entitled Mother starts throwing things at the State Trooper. Candy bars, display boxes, cups, whatever she could get her hands on. State Trooper rolled his eyes and moved to cuff her. The rest of us are watching in horror, and crying kid just starts laughing. Boss Dad looks at her and asks why she's laughing. "Mummy always said bad things would happen if I drank coffee. I just never knew they would happen to her." Some closing notes. My boss is a good father. His ex-wife is bat crap crazy and somehow managed to get full custody in the divorce. He was there to pick up crying kid to visit family for New Year's Eve. I chatted with Boss Dad and we're cool. I don't spread the story around work, and he doesn't mention how ridiculous I looked in the boyfriend's clothes. State Trooper and his partner took entitled mother into custody. What'll happen next? I don't know. Crying kid got a milkshake, and I finally got my coffee. All on the house. And our next story was posted by user Blayana881, titled, Entitled Mother Thinks She Owns the Hot Tub. Okay, so a couple days ago, me, my dad, and my brother went to an indoor water park. It was really fun, and as we usually do, for the last 10 to 20 minutes of the park, we went into the hot tub. Now, there's a few rules for the hot tub. No children under 3, no equipment, which means goggles, toys, etc., and not to yell. It is a hot tub, people want to relax. That day, I was wearing a blue t-shirt and a little pair of black shorts, and under that, I had a normal black bathing suit. You couldn't see it under the shirt. Now, here is the cast. Entitled mother, entitled mother's kids, lifeguard, and manager, my dad, my brother, and me. So everyone's just relaxing in the hot tub. It was overall kinda quiet. Just people talking between each other. Then entitled mother and her 5 kids come in, between ages 2 to 9, and just break the silence. These little brats are just splashing everywhere. Some of them have goggles and are just looking at people under the water and giggling, while entitled mother is just sitting there, doing nothing, with a toddler/baby next to her. And everyone is just kinda ticked, so one lady gets out and tells a lifeguard. Here is how the conversation with entitled mother went. Ma'am? What? You need to get your children under control. They are bothering everyone in the tub. I paid for them to be here so they can do whatever they want. Ma'am, your children are breaking the rules of the hot tub. Either you get them under control, or I'm going to get them out. No, you're not. If you try, I'll press charges for assault. My dad's like, Jesus Christ, lady. You're not the only one in the tub. Everyone just wants to relax. If your kids want to play, they can go to the pools. At that point, the lifeguard calls for a manager. Entitled mother says, The other pools are freezing. My kids want a warm place to play around. Holy crap! The hot tub is not a play area. Go to the mother freaking pool that is right over there. Your child doesn't even look old enough to be here. At that point, one of the kids with goggles sneaked behind me, grabbed my shirt, and lifted it almost off. If I hadn't worn the suit under it, my boobs would have been in plain sight for everyone to see. The manager came about the same time, so he saw the kid lifting my shirt, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? My dad's like, hey, what the freak, kid? The kid hurried away to his mum. How dare you swear at my child? Your kid just sexually assaulted my daughter. It's not his problem your daughter was showing off her breasts like that. I was literally curved up in a bowl crying in a corner. I was wearing 3 pieces of swimwear. How self-conscious can you get? Entitled mother notices manager. Entitled mother goes, oh my god, mister, these people are verbally assaulting my child. And manager goes, ma'am, I just saw your child lift up her shirt without consent. This man has a right to be angry. Entitled mother, she was wearing a suit under it, no harm done. My dad, what if she hadn't been wearing it? Manager, sir, please, let me handle this. Ma'am, you and your children have been breaking the park rule, so I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Entitled mother, I paid to be here. I can do whatever the hell I want. Manager, ma'am, if you don't leave, I'm gonna have to call the police. At this point, entitled mother kinda seems to think for a bit, then hurried off with her crotch goblins. The manager apologized to us and gave us a 20% off coupon for the gift shop. That whole story kinda traumatized me for a while, as I'm so fudging self-conscious. If you believe this is fake, honestly I don't blame you. Crap like this never happened to me in my life before, and I wasn't even sure if it was happening myself. The dialogue isn't word for word because I had to translate from French, and also I have a pretty crappy memory sometimes. And our next story was posted by user Critchar318, titled, Mum B tries to snag my phone on the plane. Okay, this happened a few years ago, and it's a reader. For the TLDR, look at the title. I'm a welder from the south. I have the accent, I wear the work boots and jeans, I wear the camo hat, I dip the Copenhagen, I drive the diesel truck, I watch the anime. Do what? Yes, that's important. It's also funny. So, a few summers ago, I'm working within the hellhole known as SoCal for about a month and a half when I say, frick it, I'm going home for a bit. Well, I know it's a long-ass flight, like 7 hours to Fort Hood, and I think like 5 to Atlanta. Well, I didn't want to pay for Wi-Fi, so I had all of Evangelion on my phone, plus the movies and all of Black Lagoon. Both are excellent anime and by no means acceptable for chillins. I settle in, and not even through the opening of EP1 of Black Lagoon, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. I'm like, what's up? EM's like, my kid saw you were watching cartoons and wants to watch them. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm sorry, this isn't really appropriate for kids. It's a cartoon. It was made for kids. Nah, it's more for teens and adults, and I don't want to give your kid my phone. Well, that was wonderful. She went off onto a tirade that damn near had the plane routed because how dare someone deny her kid their phone with cartoons? Thank God there were several empty seats and the flight attendant was kind enough to let me move. No joke, I got tired of Black Lagoon and started watching Evangelion, and didn't notice good old Mumby decided to run to the restroom. She comes by and not so subtly looks over my shoulder and shrieks, "See, I told you that crap was for kids. You're watching Power Rangers." I was so dumbfounded, and typically I'd have met the invasion of my bubble with violent removal, but the whole thing ended when the flight attendant threatened to not only have her removed at Hood, but to also have her blacklisted. Because apparently, when she realized she wasn't getting my crap, she turned to the guy behind her and tried snatching his Switch out of his hands because he was playing LOZ BOTW, or as she called it, one of those dumb Mario games. And the guy damn near squeezed her wrist till it broke. I hate entitled parents, and I hate your children that made you that way. The only thing you're owed is your own plane/train/hours in public with others, so the rest of us ain't gotta deal with you. And our next story was posted by user Watermelon12349 titled, EB Steals My Drink. This is a pretty short story, but it's infuriating as hell. This one day, I'm at a trampoline park with my friends, and I get a drink. There are water fountains, but I felt like some root beer. And I have some, and then go back to where my friends were, and we go around for 5 minutes. When I come back, I see a little kid that stole it, and is with her mum. I go over and ask politely for my drink back. Entitled mother gets angry all of a sudden. "My child needs it more than you?" "But ma'am, I bought it, and you can buy your own. You're 15, get over it." At that point, I was ticked and grabbed the drink back, and then she steals it back and runs off. I went running after her, and she's already in her car driving off. Luckily for me, the people who work were nice and got me another, but I thought this belonged here. Sorry for bad formatting, I'm on mobile. And our next story was posted by user Dead Wife Hates Me, titled, How Dare You Like Harry Potter? Me and my cousin have a weird relationship. Her being very religious, outgoing, and kinda entitled, to me being quiet, bisexual, eat hot chip and lie, and a very big fantasy/magic fan. This will be very important later. I'm very big into Harry Potter, and she thinks anyone other than God using magic is evil. So we argue a lot. On to the story. EC is entitled cousin, Elsie is entitled cousin's son, little child, and me, little Slytherin. I was helping out at entitled cousin's shop when Elsie comes up to me and asks why I like Harry Potter. I was thinking, okay, cool. So I started telling him why I think Harry Potter is cool. Then entitled cousin hears this. I knew I was doomed. EC's like, "What are you doing? You're corrupting my child." I'm sorry, EC, but he asked me. "You liar. We don't talk about that terrible stuff here. You should not get paid for your work today." The thing is, I don't actually work there. She kind of pays me whenever because I volunteer. I ended up going into the break room and continued reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. She did not pay me that day. My cousin is very kind, women, but she is very pushy on her beliefs. I'm a bisexual Wiccan. She is not aware of either of these. So I'm kinda scared about her currently. She pushes her beliefs too hard sometimes. But not paying me? Damn, dude. Sorry the story wasn't long and exciting. Our next story was posted by user SweaterStripey83, titled, Entitled Mother Refuses to Give Up 2 seats for People Who Need Them Because Her Kids Are Tired. This story happened a couple of years ago. It is nowhere near as bad as some that I've read on here, but it definitely fits the sub. I thought about this the other day as my brother had recently broken his arm and I went to the hospital with him. It reminded me of one of the trips to the hospitals that still irks me to this day. 2 years ago, I broke my foot, the 5th metatarsal bone. I was actually in a cast for 8 months as my bone just wasn't healing. It eventually turned out I had a vitamin D deficiency, and so once I started to take vitamin D tablets, it started to heal. Just a little bit of info for you out there: if you ever break a bone, take vitamin D. Anyway, I had to take many trips to the fracture clinic to be x-rayed. The fracture wasn't that painful, but was hard to walk on for long periods of time. One morning, I had an early appointment, and as it was still early on with the break, I was on crutches, as I couldn't bear any weight on it at this point. I hobble over to the clinic and the waiting room is absolutely full. No seats at all. So I find a space to stand where I won't be blocking anyone. After about 20 minutes of waiting, my foot starts to ache. Not by broken foot, but the other one from having to bear my weight solely on that one. I can't shift to my other foot, so it was aching. I look around the room and some people are giving me a few pity looks, but these are people who can't give me a seat due to their own break. The few looking at me nod over in the direction of a large family taking up 6 seats. I look over myself and see the father in an arm cast and his wife and 4 children, all looked over the age of 5 to 6. I hobble over to them to see if they might acknowledge me and give me a seat. As you can guess, that is not what had happened at all. Sigh. The family all see me, look at me, and then look away. I decide to check them out to see if they all do perhaps need the seats for whatever reason. I don't like to assume things. For context, my best friend has a muscle disorder, meaning she can't stand or walk too long and needs to sit often. You wouldn't know at all from looking at her that she has a condition. After maybe 10 minutes after seeing that all the family are fine, I ask the mother if it's possible to take a seat from either her or her kids, because my foot is aching, and as no one has been called in yet, I had a feeling I was going to be stood here for a long time. She just shook her head and said, "No, sorry." Now, I am not one for confrontation, but I don't suffer fools, gladly, and I absolutely despise unfairness. So I say, aside from your husband, yourself, and your children, you don't need a seat. This is a fracture clinic for some patients and with fractures. I don't think it's fair to take up 5 seats. At this point, an elderly couple comes in. The husband had a knee surgery from the looks of it, and although he was walking and not in a wheelchair, it was blindingly obvious that he needed to sit down. So I then say, "Look, if you're not going to give a seat to me, at least let this gentleman sit down." She replies with the epic, "We were here first, deal with it." I wanted to smack her over the head with one of my crutches. I say, "Well, you may have been here first, love, but it doesn't work that way. You're taking up 5 seats unnecessarily. This gentleman needs to sit down, and I would also like to. As I said before, this is a fracture clinic for patients with, wow, you guessed it, fractures." She goes, "Look, stop asking me. You're doing my head in now. We were here first and my children are tired. I'm not having them standing when they're tired." To B of her kid says, "Mum, I don't mind standing. I'll give up a seat." He stands up and his mum shoves him back down into the seat and says, No you won't. We were here first. Some people need to learn some manners." Wow. So I say, this has nothing to do with manners. It is common human decency. Let this guy sit down, you rotten crap. Nope. The same kid as before gets up and actually helps this old dude sit down. Very sweet. His brother then stands up and tells me I can have his seat. I say thank you and sit down. The mother isn't at all happy and says out loud, "Some people can be so effing selfish. Fake name, tell them." The husband, who has been engrossed on his phone for all of this, just sighs and shakes his head. I guess he was sick of her himself at this point. I end up talking to the two boys who stood up, and we talk about computer games. I work with kids, and so I know a lot about kid stuff and what's cool at the moment, etc. Anyway, I get a called in and finally, and just say to the mother, "You have some very sweet, intelligent, and well-mannered kids. Tell whoever taught them that to keep it up." She looked smug and proud until she actually got to the last part of my comment, but by that time, I'd hobbled too far away for her to retaliate. Our next story was posted by user Hatimakute, titled, "My dad's entitled girlfriend throws all my Christmas presents in the trash, then blames it on me." Background: my mum and dad are divorced, and both now have their own significant other. Because they are divorced, there is a custody system where we split the week and rotate holidays between houses. This year, Christmas is at my dad's house, but he is out on a business trip. This means that unless my mum goes to court to try and get Christmas with the kids, I will be having Christmas at my dad's house, but with only my sister's and dad's girlfriend. Since my mum did not go to court and dad did not want to give her the holiday, we will be at my dad's house. In the case of this story, my dad's girlfriend, DGF, is the entitled parent. The actual story. It is Christmas morning, about 9 o'clock, and I get woken up to high-pitched holiday music blasting from a Bluetooth speaker on the other side of the room. I start mumbling to DGF, who is standing in the corner, to turn down the music. She just leaves. I start getting mad and starting to cry since whenever I get woken up by a noise, but the noise doesn't stop after I'm mostly awake, it just overwhelms me. I don't know why my body has this reaction. Thank you to the people in the comments that have informed me that my reaction is probably a panic attack. Oh, and to top it all off, the demon spawn known as my little sister is running around screaming at us to wake up. I say us because I have a twin sister and we share a room. After about 5 minutes of this, I'm sobbing pretty heavily into my pillow. About 20 more minutes of this, with Dad's girlfriend occasionally coming in and yelling at me, I get up out of bed and go downstairs. Almost. While I'm going down the stairs, Dad's girlfriend sees me and the ticked off look on my face, then goes to the Christmas tree and picks up a few presents, brings them into our office. We have a spare guest room that was made into an office. I was thinking that she was taking her own presents into the office to open them in peace and quiet, which was understandable, as my sisters are pretty loud. I get to the tree and look around, but no presents have my name on them. I ask my little sister, since she was closest, if she knew where the presents were. Her response? "Oh, Dad's girlfriend took them. She said she's throwing them away because we don't need them." All in her obnoxious, entitled kid-esque voice. I was pretty devastated at this point. I run upstairs and lock myself in the bathroom, where I'm currently writing this, and cry. I start texting my mum to come pick me up, but she can't due to custody issues. While I'm texting Mum, I'm occasionally getting angry texts from both Dad's girlfriend and Dad, who wasn't even in the house. So now, nearly 2 hours later, I'm still locked in the bathroom, as it is the only room in the house with locks, besides Dad and Dad's girlfriend's room. My 10-year-old little sister is watching Peppa Pig at max volume, but I guess it makes sense because she acts like a first grader. Edit, because you guys keep asking, even though I keep saying this, the comments. Yes, I told my dad what she did, and yes, he broke up with that evil hoe. And our next story was posted by user I Love Parrots, what about you? Titled, "Entitled Mother Wants to Take My Phone Because I Let Her Use It?" It is a pretty long story, so I'm going to be short for time purposes. I am a pretty tall guy for my age, 187 centimeters or 6 foot for my American friends. I have a pretty low voice and served 2 years in the military, so I'm pretty buffed. Not too buffed, but I'm not thin to be exact. One day, I was eating in a nearby restaurant and waiting for my 2 friends. I don't practically use my phone a lot, but I average an hour or 2 a day. Anyway, I was eating my meal, waiting, which is a double cheeseburger, on a 3-man table. All and behold, an entitled mother and her son, 10 years old, approached me after about eyeing me for 10 minutes. When I was done, I decided to call my friend to check up on where they were. Oh boy, I was wrong. Entitled mother approached me and told me if she could make a call. I said sure. I'm a university student, and in my country, university students get a pretty cool perks for 4G and services. Entitled Mother took my phone and made a call. I wait for her to give it back, but then I look out and find her getting in the car. I was angry. I rush to her car and catch her off guard and put my hand on the steering wheel. And the conversation goes something like this. Me. What the frick are you doing? Entitled Mother. What are you talking about? I'm going home. Where's my phone? What phone? Oh, this phone? You don't need it anyway. You need to focus on your studies. What the frick does that have to do with my studies? Step out. Now people are starting to gather and ask what's wrong. I tell them either get my phone or I'm going to beat the crap out of her. Not that I hit women, but it's just a rage moment/threat. They tell me to calm down and they would get the phone. The manager comes out and tells us to come inside. Now, Entitled Mother's story changes to that I want to steal her phone and that I want to kill her. I was actually ticked and stood up, towering over her and the manager, and said, "Are you freaking serious?" The manager told me to calm down, and after looking at the footage, told her to give my phone back. After huffing and puffing, she gave it back. Not before me being as intimidating as possible. I went back home then, and my friends came to me and had some pretty chill time to make up for it. And our last story was posted by a user, dboy394_YT, titled, Class Bully and His Mum Get What They Deserved for Throwing a Chair at My Friend. First post here, by the way. All names and school name are undisclosed for obvious reasons. So, as you'd expect, Entitled Kid is the entitled kids, EM is the mum, me is, well, me, T is the teacher, M is my mum, and F1 and F2 are my friends. As a 13-year-old, I have seen many naughty kids, but none as bad as this. Even though I'm English, I do usually make many mistakes when typing on my phone, so if I do make one, sorry. So it all started off when Entitled Kid was already being naughty in class, shouting out loud. The teacher told him off and you could tell Entitled Kid was angry. But what happened next was a lot worse than before. Entitled Kid decided to storm out of class, throwing a chair at F1 before he left. I ran towards my friends and I saw his nose bleeding. Later on that day, I was called to the teacher's office with friend 1 and 2, who were sitting right next to friend 1 at the time of the incident. When we entered, we saw Entitled Kid, teacher, and Entitled Mother, who was looking at her phone. A conversation then began. Teacher: So, Entitled Mother, your son, as I told you earlier, thought it would be a good idea to throw a chair at friend 1 in class today. Entitled Mother: I don't believe that my kid could do such a thing. He's sweet and sound. Anyways, I don't see no proof. Me: How can you say sweet and sound? This kid is disrupting every lesson. Friend 2: And can you not see the bruises that your brat has left on friend 1? I could tell friend 2 was mad, so I encouraged him to calm down. Friend 1 wasn't talking. Instead, he was trying to cover up his crying. Entitled Mother: Look how fake his crying is. He'll get a job as a footballer. Not sure if American soccer players do this, but English footballers always fake themselves getting hurt when he's older. Friend 1 finally spoke. If it's fake, then why doesn't your son say it in front of all of our faces? Entitled Kid: Entitled Mother: He don't need to do anything you say, you little bees. You need to grow up and get a life. Teacher: Sorry, ma'am, but if that's how you're going to talk to the innocent students, I'm afraid you'll have to leave. All of a sudden, my mum walked in. I called her earlier to make sure she knew, but I didn't think she'd come in person. And who may you be? I'm me's mother, and I've heard everything you've said for the last 5 minutes. I've been standing right outside, and how dare you call my son and his friends a liar? Every other day after school he's told me about how annoying your child is, and how he should just leave. Your son clearly hurt this kid, and you cannot justify yourself and your entitled ways. Yes, she actually called her entitled. Entitled Mother looked so shocked, and realized she had no reason to try and argue anymore, whilst Entitled Kid just looked horribly embarrassed. She left with Entitled Kid saying that she's going to leave a 1-star review on the school's webpage. We all ignored her, and we all decided to go home. The Entitled Kid never came back to the school again, and I was just laughing with my friends the next day. It was just a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not sure if Entitled Kid will end up coming back, but I don't know if he does, there will be more drama, and I'll happily update you on it.